Hi everyone, this is Amol Shete, and in this particular tutorial we are going to discuss about the Docker volume. Now this is the day 4 in which we are going to discuss Docker volume. Before that we have discussed few of the other videos. So if you want to understand more about Docker, you may check out there, and please do subscribe my channel for more understanding. So here in this particular tutorial we will first of all talk about why Docker volume is required. Then there are two types of Docker volume. We'll discuss about them. Then in between we are also going to discuss about Docker exec. Okay, now this is about the how you can log into your container for something like a troubleshooting purpose, and there's something one more command we have, Docker inspect, so that will required here to understand about Docker volume. Now there are the two types that we discuss here, so those demonstration here we will have it. Okay, so let's get started. Now here the very first thing what we will talk about is the why Docker volume is required. Okay, so let's understand with one example here. Now just assume that you have a Docker server. Okay, so at this moment you have a server here, and now within the server you have a container running. Okay, now this container is running, and whenever we are storing anything in a container, so that doesn't give us a guarantee that this particular data is going to be remain there inside it, right? So let's say I have one container running, and there's something, the application is storing its data, or something like a database container we have, so in which we are storing the data. Now after a while, just for a moment, assume that this container goes down. Okay, so what will happen now? If there is no container, then there is no data left. Okay, so like our whole data has gone with the container, and now that's something probably you may not want. Okay, so where we have a few of the applications. Okay, so we might be having applications where we want the data has to be persistent. What does it mean? That even if your data, even if your container goes away, or even if your container stops working, okay, but still I can start with the new container and I shall get that data whatever I'm getting. Okay, so if I'm containing I'm starting a new container, I shall get that previous data, that whatever I had. Okay, so the cases of database or such things, okay, where we assume those applications are persistent, data what we required there. So in such case we just looking for out some solution, and this is a place where Docker volume we can use it. So Docker volume is the solution that can provide you a persistent volume, and how to implement that, so we are going to discuss that. Now to demonstrate this whole scenario, what I'm going to do is I'm going to consider one Docker image, that would be MySQL Docker image. Now if you go to the Docker hub, you guys can just search here the MySQL Docker image, and if I search for that image, I'm getting here, this is the official image, we have it. Now inside this image, if I scroll little down, so what is the benefit that we get for official image? That of course here we get some documentation around it, and the documentation is going to help us a lot. Okay, so here in the first place, just look at the diagram, the command, how we are going to run the Docker command. Okay, now if you see here, we need to pass one environment variable. Okay, now that's a MySQL root password. So let's say whenever we create a database, so we need to put some password, and with that password actually we log in to that database. Okay, so here as an environment variable you need to pass some password. Now that is something here we just come to know from this way, or even if you read a little bit down, you should get to know that there are few of the environments variable, and if you read for your root password environment variable, so this variable is mandatory. Okay, so we need to pass this particular variable at the runtime, so we'll pass it. That's one thing. Now this is the MySQL container that we are going to run, and we would like to store the data, right? So we are here talking about something that where is the data. Okay, where is the data that we can keep it for this particular image. Okay, now by default this container is going to keep its own data, all the MySQL data at some location, and if of course if you scroll little down, at some, yeah, here in the cavet section you can see where to store data. So inside this documentation you should get to know that there is something, the volume mentioned, right? So this is something here we are going to discuss today, that we are going to mount your host directory with the container directory. And here at this position, if you see that it's a var lib mysql. Okay, now that's a place in which this image is going to keep its the data. Okay, the container basically container is going to keep the data. Now that data we are going to map it to our host directory. Now that's what is going to happen in this case. Now if you wish to map it, that's your choice what this directory is going to be. Okay, but it's not mandatory that this is going to be the path, or let's say you have some other image in which you would like to find that what is that path in which you have the things placed. So for such cases you can just get it via the docker inspect command. Okay, that's the reason we have here the docker inspect command. Now docker inspect command can help you to understand that where is the volume, by default volume is. Okay, so let me show you by demonstrating this one. So we have this MySQL image. What I can say is I can say a docker pull. So I'm just going to simply pull the image. Okay, so I'm gonna say docker pull MySQL is what the image we would like to pull, and let's assume some tag here. Okay, so I'm gonna say 5.7 is the tag with which we are going to pull this image. So just press enter. Now we are going to pull this image. So here we are done with the pulling the image. And if I check now, so docker images, yes, this image is available with me. Okay, now I'm going to do what? I'm going to inspect this image. So I'll say docker inspect, and that image, that's a MySQL 5.7. Just press enter. And if you press enter, so what is docker inspect command is going to do? It is going to give you some extra information about this metadata. Okay, now if you look at that, that's a ID of your image. Then you have here the lot of data, right? So when it got created, then further if you are understanding like what is the host name of this machine, this container is going to be. So right now that's a blank one, and here you are passing if you have the environment variable, so those are also here you see. Then that's a CMD. Okay, now this is the process with which your this container is going to run, and here you see that volume, right? So this is the volume that I was talking about. So this is the place in which this image is going to keep its own data. So it's a var lib mysql. Now from here I just understood that what the directory is going to be inside the container. Okay, so I just take a note of it, and now we are going to run the docker container. And while running the docker container, I'm just going to mount the this particular path. Okay, now what this path has to be, that's our choice. So here when I was talking about, let's say let's talk about the docker volume types. So we have two types. One is the bind mounts, and other is of course the docker volume. So what happens in both the cases is basically the bind volume is nothing but in which you can decide what the path has to be, the host directory path, and docker volume is more like a docker is going to manage all the volume part for you guys. Okay, so that's the difference between two. Now I'm going to show you the demonstration. At that time you'll come to know what here I'm talking about. So let's get started with the demonstration. Now let's run this docker image. Okay, so I'm gonna say docker run, then -d to run the container in detached mode. Okay, now if you wish to give any name for your container, you can give it something. Let's say name of the container is, it's a demo volume. Okay, demo volume is the name I'm giving, and let's give it to one name as, okay, demo volume 1. That's the name of container I'm giving. Now further I can use something the your port number, but let it be. Okay, so port number is not required as such. We'll directly jump on the volume part. So -v is the option that will enable for me to tell what is the volume is going to mount with the container volume. Okay, now what is the path you would like to give? Okay, let's say here I'm on the / root location. So let's okay, before that I'll create one folder here. So let's say on this location I already have 2 folders. I'll say mkdir, and I'll give the new folder that is the demo volume folder. Okay, now I would like to mount this particular path, which is my local directory path, inside the container. Okay, so let me copy that command again, the docker run command. And next is I'm gonna say a demo volume. Now this path I'm going to mount with the it was a var lib mysql, right? So we just confirm that it's a my var lib mysql. That's my container path where the mysql is going to keep the data. Anything else here I can mention? Yeah, I can directly straight away mention the mysql 5.7. That's my image name. Okay, so that's it. Okay, I believe now this much is enough to run the container. So just press enter, and here we go. So if I just check docker ps, okay, so no, it's not running the docker container. What's the issue we have here? If I check, oh, I miss the mandatory environment variable. Okay, now one thing here I missed, that when I was talking here about that MySQL official image. So you guys can see that in fact here in this example also, MySQL root password is something we have to pass it as a mandatory variable. Now I haven't passed that. Okay, let's say I wasn't knowing about that whether I had to pass this variable or not, or just I realized that the docker container is not running. So in this situation, how I would come to know that there is something, the environment variable we have, and we're supposed to pass that. Okay, let's confirm. So if I check docker ps-a, you guys can see that as soon as the container starts, it got into the exited state. Okay, and at this point, if I check the docker logs for that, okay, docker logs and your container id, that's supposed to tell you some extra information. Okay, and here if you see that it's telling me that the script has started. Okay, but here I got an error, and this is place I got an error saying that database is uninitialized and a password option is not specified. Now at least one of the option I need to pass it here. Okay, and that's a place from where I come to know that there could be some problem. Okay, now this is how you can troubleshoot in your real-time scenario. Now the next thing what I will do here is I will just make sure that the password is passed here. Okay, so it was something the -e environment variable, and then I'm gonna pass some password here. So let's pass some password. So within the previous command, I'm going to pass one environment variable. And here I will mention, let's say admin 123. That's the password I'm passing. Okay, so just press enter now. Now I'm getting one more error. Okay, and what is that? So previously, if you see that I had created one container with the name that is demo volume 1. Okay, and because of which I'm getting an error. So that name is already there. Okay, so if you read the error, you already have one container with the same name. Now, even though it is in stop set, this is throwing error. So better let me change the name of the container. Okay, let's say it's a docker volume 2. That's the name I'm giving, and just press enter. And here we go. So finally we successfully able to run the container. And now if we check, so our container has started and it's running in the background. Now at this point, I just wanted to tell you one more thing, that we have created this demo volume folder, and if I go to demo volume folder and if I do ls, you guys can see that it was a blank folder we have created, and because we have mounted this folder with your container, so this is the containers data. Okay, this is the containers data. Or at this point, I'll just prove this point to you. So what I will do here is that I'll do the docker exec. Now docker exec is command is like you are login to the container. Okay, you can log into the container and you can check few of the stuffs, and in troubleshooting, docker exec is really helpful tool. So command, so maybe I'll say docker exec, and I'm gonna say it's a interactive mode with which I'm going to do the docker exec. And what's the container in which I would like to jump in. So either I can give the name of the container or the container ID here. So, and then further I can say it's a bin bash. Okay, so just press enter and here we go. So that's how you can log into your Docker container. I have logged in here, and if I check ls, at this point I'm at which location? It is a slash location. So I have to go to that. It was the it was a var lib mysql, in which that was a container path we have. So if I go to var lib mysql, and if you check inside here, okay, here is the all the files and folders, that what you can see is exactly going to be the same that what you have seen in on this machine. Okay, so what is the meaning of it? Okay, so I'll say exit here. Okay, and I'm back on my this host machine. Okay, so you have a Docker server, that's a host machine. So that particular path, this particular path, okay, that is the your slash root slash demo volume. Okay, so that particular path is bind to the your container path. Okay, so that's how you can bind the volume. Okay, now that's our first way with which we can bind the volume. Now there's one more way. Okay, I'll show you the other way. Okay, now to show the other way, before that, what I will do is I'm just gonna stop this existing container. Okay, I'll say docker stop, and we'll stop this container. So I stopped the container, and now if I check, do I have any container running? No. If I check, yeah, we have the stuff running here. I mean in a stop set, but that's fine. Okay, now next thing what we will do is we will learn how to create the Docker volume. So we have one option called as Docker volume command, and if I just press enter, you guys can see that we have few of the options, okay, with respect to Docker. So few of them are like we can create it, we can inspect, we can do check. Okay, let's say if I check Docker volume ls, so I can find that I don't have any volume right now. Okay, so let's create one. Okay, let's create one. So I'll say a Docker volume create, and I can give any of the name as per my choice, that it's a volume name that I wish to give. So let's say Docker volume create demo volume. So that's the name I'm giving. Just press enter, and now if I check Docker volume ls option, here you can see that we have one at the local driver, we have this particular Docker volume created. Now what we will do is we are going to mount this particular volume with your container. Okay, so I have passed that command, which is the docker run command. Okay, now here in this case, what exactly changes we are going to do? So instead of giving your this particular path, okay, you are just going to simply provide the your volume name. Okay, so let's do it. So here I'm gonna say the name of the volume. It is demo volume, and it's a more convenient, right? It's just a demo volume. That's the name I'm giving. I'm not giving any full path, and just press enter. Again, the same issue that we have this particular container name already taken by any other name. So let's change the name and just press enter. Okay, here we go. So we have started our third container, and if I check docker ps now, yes, so that container has started successfully. Now you can ask me the question, okay, like at this point that we have created this volume, but where this volume does exist? Okay, where is this volume? So we have one by default directory for the Docker. So it is the var lib docker. Okay, now inside this you should find everything related to Docker. Okay, like whichever the images you download, containers data, you have it here. Okay, everything you have it here, and at the same place you will find one volume path. Okay, if I go to the volume section, okay, volume directory, you guys can see this is a demo volume that we have it created. Okay, so inside that you can find that hyphen data directory we have, and inside this you can find that this is the volume that we have here. Okay, so that this particular volume is managed by the Docker itself. Okay, and then that's other option that we have here. Now you can just assume that this is the volume host directory you have, and inside the container you have something. Now even in the situation where Docker container is stopped, okay, still you will have this data. Okay, so I'll prove that, but before that, let's do something like this, that I'm gonna create something here. Okay, let's create something. So just assume that this is all the database structure we have, everything like all the files and folders. So let's create something here as a test file. Okay, so I'll say test file creation. and just assume that the extension of the file is txt. And now I have created here the test file. Okay, so I have created on the host path. Okay, so where I am on the Docker server, and on this particular path I have created this test file. Now what we are going to do, we are going to log in to that container with the exec, and inside that mysql path, okay, I should find this file there as well. Okay, I'm just proving the point that this both directories are same, and these are volume thing. Okay, this is like so whatever is happening there should get reflected here, and it's vice versa, right? So let's do and check whether it's a true point or not. So I'm gonna say docker exec again, and -id, it's a volume, it's a name of the container. Okay, and slash bin bash. Just press enter, and if I check now, I have to go to var lib mysql. Inside this you can see that now this is the test file I was talking about. Okay, you get it? So the same file is here, and even if I create something by myself, okay, or let's say the container itself has created something, so that directory should get reflected again back. Okay, so I said exit, and I'm back on my host path. Okay, I'm no more in the container, I'm again on the host machine. At this point, if I check the docker ps, so I do have this container running, and if I stop docker container, okay, if I stop docker container, this docker container, and if I check it, okay, now I have stopped all the container, there's no container running. And still in this situation also, if I check, you guys can see that we have that all the data, that whatever the container is having inside the container, so that is there. Okay, but even though your container is stop state, you have the data with view. Now you can just start, you can create a new container also, and you can attach this particular volume. So this whole data is still going to be there, and that is what the persistence here we are talking about. Okay, so what we are doing here exactly is that we are going to separate out that whichever the important data we would like to store or keep persistence, and those we can keep it on your host machine. So even though the container stops or anything wrong happen with the container, still that data will not get lost completely. We will have a way to just point out that existing data with the new container, and that's how we can store or we can persist the data throughout the containers. So this is about it, guys. Okay, and we gonna have one more video in the next class, so see you there in the next class. Have a good day.